Welcome back to the Pitch to Purchase podcast. I am your host, Lisa Rabel of Rebel Girl Marketing. Now, I am talking about the people side of business this month. And in the aspect of every role touches revenue, today I get to interview my friend Barb, who is an HR expert, and she tells us exactly how to do that and great tips that's not going to cost you a lot of money to keep the retention. She's got lots of great stories too about organizations that she's worked with over her time as an HR expert. We're going to get to that in a minute though. What I want to do first, as we tee this up, this whole HR side of business, I talked about the fact that last episode that when things go wrong in an organization, the first thing that happens is the blame game. Usually if there's not enough good leads, it's marketing. If there's not enough sales that are closing, it's sales. If people are quitting, it's HR. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the people side of business when it comes to the HR perspective, because they see it all and they hear it all. They get to hear the good things that are happening, and they also get to hear the bad things that are happening inside of your organization. So if you're a business leader and you want to hit the delete button or the stop button or whatever it is that you want to do to get out of this, if you truly care about your people, please stay tuned. Now, if you're a leader, this applies to you as well. You don't have to be a business owner to get the insights and the tactics and the tools that Barb talks about when it comes to leading your people. There are things that you can do that are low cost that really make a huge difference on the increasing productivity, increasing retention, increasing innovation in your organization. All of that leads to increased revenue. It's a pretty simple concept. Because for my quote this week, I'm quoting one of my favorite people, Simon Sinek, a little bit of a fangirl there. And one of his quotes says, if you don't understand people, you don't understand business. I can literally not agree with that more. Because everything that you do, you're doing with another human being, whether it's you're hiring people or working with people on your team, or you're asking people to buy from you, they're still people. And I want you to really understand the fact that the ripple effect of more revenue starts with people. Period. End of sentence. I cannot explain it more clearly than that. It's the people that you hire. It's the people that you work with. It's your vendors. It's your customers. It's everything. And guess what? You, my leader friend, you, my business owner friend, you, my person who's looking to become a leader someday, this message is for you. This podcast is for you because what I really want you to understand is that when you treat the people that you work with as human beings, not just roles that are filled, amazing, great, wonderful things happen. And the byproduct of that is increased revenue. Now, I need to make something perfectly clear. I listened to a couple of my past episodes because I'm always my worst critic. But what I wanted to say is that I don't believe revenue is the main goal at all. Increased revenue is the byproduct of all the other stuff that I'm talking about. Increased revenue is the byproduct of having a better sales process, marketing process, client experience, internal communications, all of the things that I do for my customer. Revenue is the byproduct, not the main goal. Because if money is your only focus, you're not my audience. If all you want to do is make more money and you don't care how you do it, you're not my audience. Feel free to stop listening to this podcast. Because in my opinion, the things that you do before the revenue happens is the most important part of your business. Now, in my last episode, I had a WTF moment with a CFO that I was talking to about he can't hire a VP ops. He can't figure out why he can't fill the role. And he basically has the attitude of, it's your job, just do the job. Don't bother me with anything else. And Barb talks about what the difference is between a thriving organization and an organization that's struggling. And it's pretty simple way to fix it. When I was in leadership development, sales and marketing, and also when I was in recruiting for the marketing there, I learned a lot about the people side of business. I learned a ton, actually. And what I find interesting is that every role that I've played, every organization that I've worked with, worked for, I should say, has built on that how I got to where I am today. And in every single organization that I've worked with, if they love the people that they work with and they appreciate the people they work with and they show them that, that's when the revenue comes. That's when organizations thrive. Now, I'm going to tell a quick story about a client that I have. And what's interesting is that I got introduced from a different consultant to this organization's owner. And what I found really funny about this is that we sat down for lunch and he didn't order for like 10 minutes. Like he didn't want to order for like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay. I found out later though, after I got hired, that he did that because if he didn't like me, he was just going to walk out. And I was like, dude, like, wow. But it turns out that after it took 3 lunches before he signed the contract of helping out with certain things and me learning about him to see if this is a client that I wanted to take on. Because I could see something in him that he wasn't portraying in these lunches conversations. He had a heart of gold, but he didn't want to show it. And so I gave him on the 3rd lunch, I gave him a project. I said, I will determine whether I want to work with you or not, and whether I'm a good fit for you, but you have to do something. This was like a Tuesday. We're having lunch and I said, by Friday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to call you. And between now and then, I want you to say thank you to 3 people that work for you. 3 people that you inherited in this 4th generation organization. And say it because you mean it, not because you have to, not because this is an assignment. I want you to walk to them and say, I just want you to know how much I appreciate the fact that you show up here every day. And I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't know what words he used. I wasn't there when he thanked these 3 people. But at the same time, what happened was I called him at 10 o'clock on Friday and I said, did you do your homework? And he said, yes. And I said, how did it feel? He said, it felt great. See, what happens is that as leaders, nobody goes through leadership school. Well, some of you probably did have leadership training, but real world experience is where it actually comes through. See, nobody taught leaders that it's the little tiny inexpensive free things that we do for our employees and our team that make the difference. Then they have the biggest ripple effect. Now, back last month, I interviewed Rick from Living as a Leader, and he told a story about just in 4 weeks, just by giving one positive feedback to everybody on that person's team, how productivity increased and tardiness decreased and nobody was calling in sick anymore, and how they weren't all of it, not only just, leadership complimenting their team, but the team was complimenting each other and then complimenting up. It was a huge effect. So when we have a people problem, don't blame HR. HR is doing the best that they can. Let me just ask you this question. If you're having people problems, is it the people or is it your culture? Is it the tools that maybe your organization needs to hire the right people? I am so excited to introduce this month's guest because, one, I just love her to death. She is so funny and she is so smart. And we've had so much fun networking together over I'm not going to admit how many years we've known each other. And I love her name so much. And when we do networking, her name is Barb. And so we go, wow. So, anyway, so we're talking this month about HR and how we like to play the blame game when something goes wrong on the people side and HR gets blamed first. So I brought Barb on because I want her to talk about the HR perspective of why every role touches revenue and seeing it from the people side of this conversation. So Barb, thank you so much for coming on the Pitch to Purchase podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about me. So I tell everyone I started in accounting, and back in the day, if you were in accounting, you ended up doing some HR. That's just what happened. So
Yes,
they didn't
totally.
have, there was no HR degree or anything like that because you did payroll. So then you ended up doing benefits and all of those things. And I didn't really like accounting that much. And I found out that I liked, who does? Unless it's giving me money, then I like accounting. But anyway.
Yeah, numbers are not my love language.
Yeah. So I discovered that I liked helping people. Like that was really my thing. So was it helping people get hired for the right job or helping organizations find the right people for those jobs or when they had them in the positions, making sure that they were doing what they needed to be doing in order for the company to be making money and moving people along in the process, but also the business along. So I have done all types of HR work, whether it's been blue collar, executives, all the things. My last corporate gig, I was an executive recruiter, HR manager, and I just decided that I wanted to help more businesses and I like helping smaller. So somewhere between 50 to 100 is my sweet spot because I get to coach some of the people along the way too, which is one of my favorite things to do. So I've been
Yeah.
doing this for 7 years and I have still end up working in manufacturing, assembly, and sometimes I've recruited pilots. That was a new one. Physical
That's cool.
therapists. Yeah, just all kinds of things so I had to keep learning, which I enjoy. So,
Right.
yeah.
Because we never really stop learning in our business. There's always something new, something different. There's always different emerging leaders that have a different style about how they do business and how they consider like leadership, all the things, right? So we're going to get
Yeah.
into that in a little bit. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for sharing that because what I love about your background the most is that it's not just, you just didn't do one thing and only one thing. And as much as I love my marketing peeps, the problem is if they've only done marketing and they've never done anything else within the business, they don't truly understand the effect marketing has on the
Mm,
business from a different perspective.
yeah.
So I love the fact that you've done all of those different things. That's
Yeah.
absolutely great. So
Yes.
based on the fact that you've worked with so many different companies and so many different industries,
Yes.
what do you think is one of the main, I don't know, maybe one or two things that you see from the people side that is different from a thriving company to one that's maybe struggling on the people side? What do you have a couple of things that you've seen that are obvious to you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, for example, the last corporate job that I had, people didn't really know the president because
Okay.
that's how he likes it.
Okay.
Extremely private, which I understand, like people don't have to know all your personal things, but maybe he could take some interest in you. Maybe if he would have had a little bit more interest in the employees,
Mhm.
that would have made a bit of a difference. And the reason that that was so clear to me is now working with some of the companies that I've had the opportunity to work with and their leadership teams have
Yeah.
taken such an interest in their employees. It's like night and day, the culture.
Amazing.
And the employees understand what drives the leadership team to be doing what they're doing and just kind of, yeah, like I said, it doesn't have to be what they did that weekend or anything like that, but why are you working for the company? What makes you want to stay here? All of those things so that they can kind of understand it. Yeah, makes a big
Yeah. So getting
difference.
to know the employee as a human being instead of a role that's being filled,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
exactly what we're talking about anyway. We're talking about how every role influences revenue. And it's interesting because Rick from Living as a Leader that was on last month said the same thing, that when leadership gets involved in the people side of business, it makes a huge impact
Hmm.
on everybody. Yeah,
Hmm.
I've had companies in I've been working at corporate where I didn't know like the head of the office or the head of the region or something like that because they always just, stayed arm's length with everybody. They walked through the office but said nothing to anybody on the way through.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's hard. So is okay, so we talked about the president being involved with like at least communicating with the
Hmm.
team of like why it's important and why you're working here. Is there another thing that you've seen that it makes a big difference between a thriving company and a struggling company?
Yeah. Well, for example, I mean, at the corporate office, to be fair, the manufacturing divisions were not on site. But one of the things that I noticed, I did a 3-month gig at a manufacturing company, and when the CEO and COO would come in the morning, one of them would come in the back and he would walk through and say good morning to everybody and kind of ask people what they were working on and different things like that. And then the other guy came in and nobody knew he was there. And his door would be shut and just like a total different vibe. So people didn't really know him and he was very standoffish, and it was like he didn't understand. So that was
Mhm.
huge. Is huge.
Yeah. And I think the lesson here is it's to your point is you don't need to know everything about you as a leader, but they have to know you care. That's
Yeah.
it. They have to
Oh.
know that you and understand what you're like you said, like what are you working on and all those kinds of
Hmm.
questions. They're not rocket science. This is not rocket science. This is just being a human to other humans, I guess is the way I would
Yeah.
put it.
And just being nice. I mean,
Yeah.
there was an excuse going around like, oh, he's an introvert. He doesn't really like, I'm like, oh, then do
Mm-mm.
something else.
Yeah.
So,
Not in a
yeah,
good excuse.
no, no.
So did you see that role then when the leaders of the company wouldn't engage with the other? Did you see how that impacted revenue at all? Did you
Yeah.
have access to that kind of a concept?
Yes, because the people in the back started to, um, they weren't coming in on time because,
Oh,
well, nobody was paying attention or giving them an attaboy when they were coming in on time. And I
yeah.
would hear over and over again, they're adults, they're getting paid, they don't need that. It's like, well, you don't understand. If they're not doing their job, you don't get that fancy house. So, your customers aren't happy.
Right.
It's just, yeah. Um, so we had a lot of people all of a sudden that there was a lot of absence, tardies, a lot of different things like that. And they were like, they don't care anyway. Like nobody talks to me. They don't even know I'm here. So yeah,
Wow.
there was an impact.
Yeah, so the productivity goes down, which means
Hmm.
revenue goes down, which means customers aren't getting what they need, which means they go to the competition, and it's just this massive ripple effect that
Hmm.
happens when leaders don't understand that every role touches revenue.
When you have the people that are in forecasting that are 2 offices down from you and they're having a hard time with forecasting of how the things need to go out to ship because people aren't showing up, yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden then marketing has to deal with like the bad reputation, and customer service
Hmm.
has to handle angry customers, and it's just
Yeah,
that's too bad. I mean,
yeah.
there are companies like that out there. And here's the thing. If you're still listening to this, then one, congratulations, because it means that you care enough about your people to understand the people side of leadership. But here's the other thing is that like if you and normally I don't do this, but if you know of a company that has these types of issues, you might want to share this podcast with them. Um and so it's one of those concepts of sometimes people just don't understand, and they're not trying to be mean or rude or angry or upset about it. They just don't get it, and they don't understand the ripple effect. They don't understand how every role
Yeah.
touches revenue, and sometimes it's just about bringing the awareness to the leader.
And sometimes it's harder when it's family.
Oh
So
yeah.
it was a family owned company. Yeah. And
Yeah.
they never worked anywhere else before. So that's a whole nother topic.
Okay, so let's go back to the companies that you work with that
Hmm.
that do get it, like they
Hmm.
understand the interpersonal relationships and the how every role touches revenue and the impact that that has. So, what do you, as an HR expert, say is a good thing to do for the onboarding process to make sure that this doesn't happen once a new hire happens? Like, so what are your suggestions as far as the onboarding process?
So a big one is if the leadership team hasn't met this person throughout the hiring process. So if it's somebody that, say, for example, we're hiring for shipping or assembly or something
Hmm.
like that, the leadership team might not have been included in an interview. So it's not an
Okay.
executive position. It's one of the other ones. I, at the current company, one of the current companies that I'm doing fractional HR for, I always let the president and the vice president know when someone's starting. So they make an
Okay.
effort to come down, because when the person comes in, they start with me. And then I walk them to wherever it is that they're going to. And what I will say, the other huge piece is the manager always sends out the welcome so that everybody knows, oh, who is this new person walking around? But they also walk the new person around. So if you have a sales and marketing area that's obviously not next to, manufacturing or shipping or whatever it is, make sure that they're introduced, so they start to get the concept of, oh, those are the people who speak to the customers. We're the ones that make sure everything looks good that goes to the customer to help get the repeat customers. So they start to put names and faces together, especially because, like I said before, I work with smaller companies, and there we do have luncheons and different things like that. So everybody is together, and you kind of get to recognize people and how it might overlap. Your roles might overlap, and give them a better understanding, somebody in shipping, how what they're doing does affect the revenue of the company. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That makes
walking
a
them
lot of
around.
sense. Yeah. I mean, and it's so simple again.
Hmm.
It's like, this is not something you have to implement. It's not going to cost you extra money. It's going to cost you a few minutes, but it's going to make a huge impact.
Yeah.
I know when I started in corporate sales that I had a team of 3 other people, and I spent one day with the other 3 people learning what they do. So as
Hmm.
a salesperson, I knew what their roles did. So I knew how to sell that to the potential clients. Like, and knowing that person personally, then it was, I know I could say, like, I'm going to introduce you to the person in this part of the team who does this, and oh, they've got 2 kids or whatever. It's like, make it that more personal kind of aspect of it,
Hmm.
even though their role was completely different than mine. We were a team of 4 for every project.
Yeah.
So but it was really great understanding what they did and just saying, this is the underwriter.
Hmm.
What does an underwriter do? So I think that it made a big impact. And that was
Yeah.
really early in my career. So I saw firsthand how that's very positive.
Yeah. There are sometimes when you're working with somebody, and you're doing assembly or whatever it is, you might run into a construction worker, for example, that needs new cabinets or something that this company makes, and you understand that you can be like, oh, I can introduce you to so and so. So,
Yeah.
and hello, make money for the company.
Again, revenue.
Little things.
With the whole hiring process and onboarding and then the recruiting and getting the people to stay with the company, like, what is one thing that companies think is working that actually isn't at all?
It's so funny because I'll see memes and stuff about this too, like a pizza party, where it's like, oh yeah, haven't gotten a raise in 3 years, but I got a piece of pizza. So I will say pizza parties are good, but let's make sure people are getting performance reviews and increases, even if it's just a cost of living, something to go along with that. But so yeah, the companies that are like, I haven't really done reviews for 3 years, but every other month we bring in cupcakes
Order
or something.
Domino's.
Yes, exactly. Something like that. So yeah, not
Oh
so good.
man. Yeah, I've seen those memes too, and I completely agree with
Yeah.
them. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, make sure that their baseline needs are covered, and then the pizza party is above that, right?
Yes. It's
Make
the
sure that they're
extra.
getting paid, that they have the right, like benefits, like all the baseline stuff is covered. Then
Hmm.
throw on a pizza party. Yeah.
Yeah. And make sure
That's
that when they
funny.
need something, they know who to go to.
Oh
When you're
yeah.
talking about the onboarding, and that's one of the reasons too, to walk people around. It's like, if something's wrong with your paycheck, who do you talk to? If you
Right.
didn't get your insurance card, who you're supposed to talk to? Just all of those things so that they don't feel lost, especially in those first couple of days. But yeah, retaining people, a big part of that is making them feel like they're important to the company. So, and there are things that people do. So it's your anniversary month. You're gonna have breakfast with the president. Um, That's,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. And I have worked with, in the last 18 months, I've worked with 2 companies that have done that. And they like it. The employees really like it because it's just like that one-on-one time with the president. And the president usually tells them things that are going on and they feel important because it's like smaller company again. So maybe there's somewhere between 3 to 8 people in your group. 8 being the largest I've ever seen lately. And they get that one-on-one time. So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Because it doesn't even have to be the president per se on larger or bigger organizations.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's a time crunch there. But even
Correct.
if it's not you get it with your manager, but maybe your manager's manager. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be the president, the leader, the founder, but even if it's just even one more, your manager and or one above, I think that would
Hmm.
still make a huge impact. So
Oh,
that's one really good tip
yeah.
to keep on the retention of keeping people. Is there anything else that you think that like any of the listeners could implement immediately that would help protect the people side of the business?
One of the big things is, and depending on if they can do this or not, but if your sales and marketing has some type of incentive program, if there's some way that you share that with the people that are either doing the manufacturing or shipping or assembling, whatever it is, because when you see an increase in sales, that's going to increase in the other departments as well. So, and what I will honestly say is that a lot of the sales these days are coming e-commerce and there's never a conversation. So it's not that salesperson literally placed the order into the system. And now you're
Yeah.
having somebody who's pulling it, shipping it, doing all of those things. They should get a little piece of the pie, you know?
Yeah.
So I've seen it both ways where sales and marketing, they get incentives and they get it all. And then I've seen it where everybody gets something. Look at what sales did this month. Everybody gets an extra $100 in their paycheck. Look at what happened this quarter. Look at what happened. And it just really helps everyone. They see it weekly. An email goes out weekly so everybody can see what's going to happen. And then they get that extra money. So it is something easy to do.
Well, and quite honestly, yes, as a past salesperson, sales is hard, and I can see
Hmm.
why compensation needs to be happening. However, I'm not the only person in the team. Like what I sold needed to be completed by other people on the team, and they had every right to get a piece of that as well.
Hmm.
Because if they didn't do what they did, I wouldn't have customers. I wouldn't have repeat customers and people who I could upsell to and like they would renew with me. So I
Yeah.
find it really interesting that even it does not take a lot of money to incentivize the non-sales and marketing people,
Right.
because it's all part of one team, which is lovely because that literally plays right into my concept that I'm trying to get in front of everybody, which is every role in your organization touches revenue, and everything that you just said completely
Yeah.
like relates to that, and from the people side, it solidifies it. So
Yeah. And when I go into a company and they have figured out how expensive employees are, where they've like, look at how much we pay for their salaries, look at how much we give them for insurance, look at how much it costs when they take vacations, all of those things. And they have that mindset of what their employees are and that they're a liability, that they're not their biggest asset. That is a whole mind shift that has to happen for the, leadership team
yeah,
before those
and if
employees are
you're
going
listening and that's you or that's your boss, let me know and I can get you in front of a great HR person. I might know a couple.
to, yeah, yeah. Or let her know and she'll have a talk to you first.
Yeah.
A little bit of coaching and then,
A little
yeah,
bit coaching.
yeah. So,
Promise. No slapping involved.
no,
Um
no.
well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I do appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship and all of the insights you have about human resources, because it's a hard job. Human resources is a hard job because the people side of business is more than just tactics. It's emotions and just so many more things that I don't even want to list.
Yeah.
So I appreciate what
And
you
it,
do for
and
your
it is
customers.
sales.
Oh gosh, yes.
Because I'm selling the company. So if you don't treat your people well, I'm not going to want to hire people for you either. So.
Oh yeah. I know. I always had a difficult selling a product I didn't believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally understand that.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
You're very
I truly
welcome.
appreciate you, and I look forward to our next little coffee club.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Pitch to Purchase podcast. I hope you learned something about the people side of business. Next month, we're going to be talking about the sales side of business and what that truly means for your organization. So until next time, it's time to raise the bar and maybe a little hell. Cheers.